Will generative AI fundamentally change advertising forever? Hello and welcome to Unscripted, the future of mobile growth. My name is John Koetsier. We're seeing magic in front of our eyes as we speak text, images, movies into existence. But we're still just scratching the surface of what generative AI can do for marketers. To dig in, we have a very special guest. He's co founded a global ad network, been a chief revenue officer, guided his company through massive changes from the web to mobile to privacy to wherever we're going right now. He's co-founder of InMobi Group. You name it in ad tech, they have a solution for it. And he's the CEO of the InMobi advertising platform. Welcome, Abhay Singhal.
Thank you, John. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Super pumped to have you. As you said, never a dull day in ad tech, right? There's always something going on. Now we're talking about generative AI. Will it fundamentally change advertising forever?
Oh, absolutely. I think it will. And the way I would like to explain this is uh, in the world of ad tech or advertising, AI has always been there. AI has always been working in the background, whether it is with respect to the targeting or optimization or bidding or anything else of that nature. I think we've all been using very sophisticated machine learning algorithms to make it better. But this is probably the first time where generative AI would help um, create the environment for the things to impact the consumer interface or the actual ads that are in front of the consumer. And to that, I tell a lot of people that look, in the world of advertising, nobody wakes up in the morning saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to look at some beautiful ads." For an industry as large as we are in, it still carries a very negative sentiment in the head of the consumers. And I believe that generative AI is probably for the first time in the last 25 years of digital advertising is putting a, a, a tool set in front of everyone that can probably help us redeem uh, this perception in the head of the consumers. And that's the opportunity that excites me every single day. I mean, it's not a minor shift as you would appreciate, John. If we are talking about changing the perception of billions of consumers about digital advertising and they feeling good about seeing what is powering the free internet in the world, I think that is the promise that the generative AI is actually putting in front of all of us, and that's what makes me uh, and everybody in the industry very excited about it.
The promise is pretty incredible, actually, right? If you think about it, because with generative AI, you can instantly create a perfect ad for the perfect situation. You can create an ad for every individual theoretically. Do you see that is where we're going?
So this is something that we've been piloting at a big scale at InMobi over the last 6 7 years, 6 7 months actually. Um, So we're one of the largest players in the programmatic advertising. And if you look at the programmatic advertising, the promise of programmatic advertising has largely been about efficiency. Uh, make sure that the buying is transparent. Make sure that the tax that the chain takes for the money is as less as possible. Make sure that the ads are being delivered at a fraction of a second and so on and so forth. If you see that all of them are got to do with the efficiency, and effectiveness was primarily driven by continuing to bring the prices down and down and down. So this now what we are seeing is for the first time a promise where the programmatic advertising can actually be beautiful as well. In the world of creativity, and we work with number of agencies and advertisers and so on and so forth. Largely speaking, the creatives that are given to us are the creatives you know, that are never created for the programmatic advertising. The creatives are some sort of a filtered version of what was created for something else, and then they reshape it, resize it, probably, do as little as possible to those creatives and then give it to the programmatic ecosystem and say, guys, run it, carpet bomb it with as efficient technology as possible. And to you and me and billions of users as consumers, we're actually seeing things where not a whole lot of effort has been put to to make the creatives look good. Now, why is that? It's not people don't want to do that, but creatives are expensive. Creating creatives for a consumer, creating creatives for specific formats, it's an expensive proposition. And that's where this technology is really, really powerful. So whether the technology will get to a level where we can theoretically reach 1:1, I think the time will tell, and maybe it'll be possible in 2, 3, 4 years. That's where also the privacy and the targeting comes into the picture, which I think we should talk about later in our talk. But certainly, at whatever the permissible cohort of targeting is, I believe that the creative optimization and creative rendition could be 2 sigma better, or maybe 3 sigma better than what it is today.
I want to connect two things that you said. You said off the top that people don't wake up and say, "Hey, show me some ads. I want to see some ads. Let's go watch some ads. Where's the TikTok for ads?" Right? Doesn't exist. Secondly, you said, "Hey, it's about efficiency and we've been carpet bombing." Those two are connected. And if we can make ads that are significantly higher quality, significantly better, significantly more beautiful, significantly more engaging. I mean, right now, you can use generative AI to create great text, almost indistinguishable in some cases from what humans say. You can create amazing images. That's incredible. You can speak movies into existence, which was unheard of maybe 3 years ago or even 2 years ago. You can do so much. That is quite mind blowing if you think about an ad that is created instantly for a person and a situation or a context, maybe even a video ad, who knows? And it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. Maybe we have significantly fewer ads and better ones.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, if I may throw few ideas that we've seen work very, very beautifully. We're overlaying the images with generative AI audio, and this audio is in different accents, and it is in different languages, and so on and so forth. So imagine the possibility where you can actually have the ads speak in multiple different languages, and it can reach to a consumer in the native language that they're actually speaking. We're toying with an idea where we're taking these product SKUs, say a chair or a table, or you know an uncomplicated physical products, which can be described in sort of 4 or 5 different sentences. We're taking that and we're creating sort of a moving video, which has nothing but a set of few images and some text and some audio behind it. uh, and of course, the simple images and simple text is anyway at scale. So just in the last 6 months, the amount of creative rendition that we are doing on the basis of the AI has already reached uh, in the 20s in terms of the total percentage of the creative. So if this is what just the first 6 months look like, I think I'm genuinely excited about the future. Now, one of the other things, John, that is very important for me to highlight here, and we did this A/B testing. We have number of different, very smart, creative individuals that have been creating ads in InMobi for years. When we just run at scale these creatives, which are actually created by humans versus the creatives that are actually being put by the AI forward, uh, we're seeing a remarkable difference between the creatives that the AI is generating in terms of the performance versus the humans are generating. It is already beating some of the best humans in InMobi in terms of the performance. And performance being the CTR or completion rate or view through rate or any one of those metrics that you look at. So it is not only cost efficient to produce them, but it is also producing results that are better. Now, I think the technology is only going to become better, the cost is only going to become cheaper, and the scale is only going to become bigger. So I think the it's a change that has got the Google founder to come back to office. Certainly, it must be something that is going to probably change the industry forever.
Sergey's back in the office. He's back in Google. He's working hard on generative AI. I want to hit what you just said there. It's better. And I'm guessing, there's a few things to unpack there, right? Because if you're a creative person, but you're being forced to churn out 10 creatives an hour, 50 creatives an hour, 100 creatives, whatever it is a day, that's not very creative work. You start feeling like somebody on assembly line. It's really hard. If you are using generative AI and you can speak a few things into existence, maybe tweak a couple of the results or pick the winners or something like that, that suddenly becomes more interesting. Is that how it's working for you?
It is, and look, this is where I want to draw, a distinction. The Some of the people are making confusing generative AI as automation. They're basically saying that, okay, if I'll give this tool to this person, maybe rather than producing 50 creatives an hour, this person will produce, you know 70 creatives an hour, 100 creatives an hour. I think that is where we're probably getting it completely wrong. I think it is a tool not to aid the humans to do better. It is a tool to, in some sense, take us into a creative direction where we as humans will never go to. And that is where the roles of humans are completely changing. Uh, the role of humans are to somewhat be the guardrails, to define the metadata, to define the boundaries within which we want to be operating, rather than uh, rather than trying to use this to resize the creative, if you will, because that's also a very big industry, by the way. Companies like Accenture and WPP has what, 3,000 people that they've employed in India, which do the creative resizing for all of their global offices. Accenture has what, tens of thousands of people that they've employed in building that business. So it's a very large business where creative resizing and creative reshaping is a very big industry, and that is under threat. But rather than worrying about that, we should actually worry about the new creative uh, possibilities that get opened up because of this, and what role humans have to play in this paradigm shift. And this is where I saw this very beautiful lecture by Sal Khan, where he talked about the impact of generative AI on education, where he said that, look, probably for the very first time in the education, we have a possibility that we can give one-to-one teacher to student ratio. Now that's transformative. That's not automation. That's not, oh, let's get a little bit better. That's like a two sigma shift in the humanities growth and humanities intelligence, which is never ever possible in our life, in with the current tools that we have. And that's what I think is a future in the creative also that we are very excited about.
It's pretty amazing if you think about it, the impact in education, the impact elsewhere. It reminds me of Snapchat put my AI in the app. And there's people who say, hey, that's my best friend. There might be some challenges there, but at least there's a friend. Another was saying that's my math coach.
Yeah.
That is GPT-4 inside Snapchat, and that's my math coach. And people are using it for that. That's very, very cool. I do want to get to something else that you talked about, and that was targeting and also privacy, right? And one of the things I've thought about as we think about generative AI and maybe a one-to-one advertising future where there's an ad created just for me, obviously privacy comes into play. Device identifiers are going away. That's challenging. But you talked about targeting ads that you could have multiple languages attached to them, right? That's great for Europe. That's great. There's dozens of languages. That's great for India. You've got hundreds of languages. That's great for many places in the world where you have many. And that's an example of targeting, in a sense, not to an individual, but to a geo, to a culture, to a group of people. Talk about further targeting, maybe even one to one in an era of privacy. Is that possible? Is maybe that only on platform in certain places?
So one of the other things, John, that I am personally very excited about, and this is something that hasn't yet unfolded in front of us. So this might sound magic, but then, a I don't know who said it at one point in time, but
Arthur
somebody
C.
said,
Clarke. Arthur
somebody
C.
said that
Clarke.
good piece of technology and magic are indistinguishable from each other. So
Yes.
I fundamentally think that one of the next big trend that or next big wave of innovation that is going to come in front of all of us is going to be on-device compute. Now, this on-device compute is a fundamental shift in terms of how the consumer privacy can be handled, how the entire targeting can be handled, how the creation can be handled without sending the things back to the server and then bringing them back onto the device. Now, I know that current application of that are fairly limited. I know that the Google keyboard does that onto the device itself. Maybe Google Translate does that. Google Maps has been able to do so, and there are a few other apps that I'm aware of that that do pretty much most of their functionality on the device itself by sending the models onto the device and compute. Um, but why can't that be done for targeting? Why can't that be done for language modeling? Why can't that be done for creation of the creative, uh, where we can send some sort of a lightweight AI model onto the device itself, and that model sort of computes everything on the device as against to sending the things back to the server and bringing that back onto the device. Now, if that's the case, then the whole world is going to be probably a little bit less on the edge with respect to what's happening with respect to the data and with respect to the uh, privacy, which I think are very, very valid concerns. And if you look at the Apple's recent ad, it said privacy, that's your phone. And we're actually literally taking that statement and putting that statement onto its own head. Now, I don't know how Apple is going to play in this game because they are literally a closed ecosystem. I don't know how Android is going to play, uh, but certainly that on-device compute is very, very, very promising technology. I mean, we've seen some of the models where, in fact, Glance, which is another InMobi sister company, there we're running a number of different content creatives that we are serving to our consumers. We're actually creating them on the device itself and serving them directly to the consumers by creating them on the device without having to touch the servers at all. So it's a very interesting play. We'll see how it evolves, but that's another exciting area that we are investing a lot of time in.
That is absolutely super cool. The idea of doing on device edge computing, in a sense, isn't 100% new. You see that in Privacy Sandbox and Android targeting will happen partially on device in other areas like that. But actually doing the generative AI piece on device and building the ad on device, that's pretty cool. It reminds me of Unity. They have a generative AI subsystem in their SDK in their platform that you can basically have sort of a mini GPT in your game and other things. And now you've got it basically in your platform and in your ads. Very, very, very cool. Let's go. Okay, we're out of the box already, right? So let's just jump entirely out of the room here. Let's imagine a future, maybe one step beyond what you said, where I as a consumer say, hey, you know what, here's the sorts of things I want, here's the sorts of things I'm interested in, here's the sorts of things that I want, offers on. If you've got a great offer, awesome. So then your system interacts with that. Imagine that goes to the next level, and it's almost like my personal AI agent knows me intimately, knows everything about me, knows me better than I know myself. And that communicates with the SDK or ad engine on device. Um, there's some pretty amazing worlds that we could enter.
Yeah, and it's not really that far, John. It looks very fascinating. I believe we're probably technology is not very far. What is very far is uh, how are consumers going to react to it? The psychology of something like this,
Mhm,
the
mhm.
social impact of having two agents negotiating with each other, on behalf of two individuals who you know probably are never going to know who the other person is, or so on and so forth. So, I mean, the it sounds very fantasy, it sounds very, but it's probably the fantasy from a psychology word and a sociology word, and that world from a technology world. These things are very much possible. When Google showed it, what, 2016, 17, when they showed these calls being made on behalf of the consumer to schedule an appointment,
Hmm.
and they couldn't bring them out for one reason or the other, but they had that technology in place good 6 7 years ago, or
I
maybe
know.
4 years ago, who knows. But what one can imagine how much it would have progressed in the last 4 years, which is yet under the wraps and haven't yet come out. So in the world of advertising as well, it is uh, it's very much possible. Look at, I mean, we were talking about this entire thing about seller defined audiences. um, and IAB couldn't come out with a standard, and I think they've come out with recently with some paper that they are making everybody comment on it. But rather than having seller defined audiences, why it can't be a user defined targeting? um, I as a user am going to present myself, or my agents are going to present what my preferences are, and it is going to then seek the input from various different people on saying, what do you guys want to sell it to me, or what do you want to give me that is
Hmm.
going to be interesting for me. Now that's not too far, and maybe we'll just make a leap from this whole uh, ID driven targeting, which was all led by the servers, to agent driven fetching, which will all happen on the device. Uh, and everybody will be happy in the process. Users will be happy that they are in control. Um, the vendors will be happy, advertisers will be happy, and privacy watchdogs are going to be happy. So I think it's a very win-win-win-win-win situation.
What a fascinating world we live in, where we've gone from advertising that is contextually targeted at best, to advertising that was very tightly behaviorally targeted because IDFA was free and GAID was around and everything, to a world where, well, back to context and a few other pieces and components based on what people have chosen to reveal or not chosen to reveal, or what they've accepted or not accepted, to perhaps this entirely private world where the advertising is so good you might actually want it because it's completely personalized to you. However, let's come back from the future. I don't know if that's a year. I don't know if that's 5 years. I don't know if it's 10 years. Let's come back from the future and come back down to today, because one of the things you talk about in a recent post that you did at the Drum was reality and touching grass and getting back in contact with what is actually happening. You talked about the generative AI that InMobi has been using, developing for 6 months, is actually out there right now. Talk about how you see this evolving over the next few months. Things that you're thinking of bringing out, things how it's going to change the world of advertising and programmatic.
So I think we've only just scratched the surface at this point, John. We've just probably used the existing tools and technologies just to be able to put better creatives out there, whether it is the content pieces, whether it is the ads, whether it's moving ads or whatever. We probably just put those creatives out there, and we're collecting a lot of feedback, lot of feedback on what's going on. In fact, we've created an internal model that has been created on top of commercially available technologies, where we are probably putting a lot of effort on what sort of a feedback loop that we put into those platforms, so that eventually the creatives continue to become better and better and better on the basis of when InMobi puts in their own proprietary data into those tools in terms of what creatives are performing, what creatives are not performing, where the users are giving their attention, where they are not giving their attention, and so on and so forth. So I feel like that in probably less than a year from now, this whole process of generating and learning and generating and learning and generating and learning will go through so many loops that it'll become ridiculously good. And that is where we're all betting that if we are talking this time next year, um, unless something as crazy as generative AI comes again, I think we'll all be talking about something incredible that has come out of the generative AI uh, in this year. I'll give you this one very beautiful example. It's something that blew my head off. I was in. Were you in Cannes this year, John?
I was not.
Oh, you weren't. So this year in Cannes, everybody only talked about AI. I mean, I wonder if AI wouldn't have been invented, what people would be talking. I think we would just be sitting mute. But everybody was talking about AI. But when you look at all the ads that won any sort of an award at Cannes, there was probably only 2 or 3 awards that had very impeccable use of technology into it. It was still a lot about good 101 of creative advertising that makes Cannes such a beautiful, beautiful place. Um, I'm just wondering what sort of awards are going to show up next year. 110%, they're actually going to put an AI enabled ads category uh, next year,
Hmm.
which they haven't had this year. And so next year, ads are going to win on the basis of innovation. And probably a year later, they're going to win in the category of effectiveness. Uh, because that's where we'll showcase how they've been impactful in some form or shape. So I think that's where we are headed right now. Everybody's talking about it as innovative stuff. There's still a lot of apprehension when it comes to creative, like who has a copyright, where uh, is the content really safe for all sort of audiences. Now what happens if something goes out of the box and the brand has a backlash? So by the way, our advertisers are also not giving us a free leash. There are tons and tons and tons of back and forth that are going on with our advertisers and agencies and so on and so forth on ensuring that they are giving us some sort of a flexibility in terms of what creatives can be put forward. So I think next 1 year is going to go through this whole process of norming and forming, and whatever, storming, forming, and norming kind of a phase. And a year from now, some of those things will probably become tech enabled. People will come about, there'll be few awards, and it'll become very normal in probably less than 6 to 9 months from now.
Maybe we should talk briefly about the role of the advertiser or the experience of the advertiser. How does the advertiser's role change? Now you're working with an ad network, an agency, a DSP, whatever the case might be, an exchange, and you have a set of ads, you've got some creative, you've got some copy, you've got some targeting ideas, all that stuff. How does that change in this world?
I can take some, forward looking viewpoints on it, but I don't think I have a crystal ball on how those things change at the moment, given I think it is such a new area for everybody to play at. Uh, I can tell you this, bunch of examples. Like when we reach out to our advertisers and we say we want to use generative AI for your ads, they say, perfect. Why don't you send us creatives and let us approve them? Um, and our point is that is precisely something that we can't do. Uh, uh, and that's where the entire education process then starts. Okay, to what level you want to actually give the control in the hand of the machine? Uh,
Hmm.
do you really want to use generative AI to create 1,000 creatives and then go through approval one by one? Or do you want to use 5 of them and then approve them and then let them run and so on and so forth? So I believe that is one road that has to be crossed together in terms of what is the degree of freedom that advertisers and agencies and the technology companies will allow the technologies to take. Uh, Maybe some of the performance advertisers will be uh,
Hmm.
more forthcoming in it than the large brand advertisers, but that's okay. But that's one phase that we will all go through. The second phase that we will all go through is what is called as the typical uh, hallucination in the generative AI, where
Hmm.
you the creative looks like that's a drawing made by a 1 year old or a 2 year old or a 3 year old. um, and the creatives are so you can't really let the technology also have a free rein on things like this. So both for technology companies and for the advertisers, defining the boundaries of uh, the degree of freedom is going to be very important conversation that needs to happen multiple times a year or multiple times during the next phase. um, and I believe that some of this will also be enabled by uh, how advertisers see the performance at the end of it, because it's a
Hmm.
fact of the matter that typically the CTRs have been going down. The advertisers have been, sorry, consumers have been developing the blindness for advertising, uh, you know, over and over again, and that's where advertising and technology companies are all trying to think of how do you sort of gather more attention from the consumers. So certainly it's the need of the hour, but to what level we will give the degree of freedom to the creative will be an interesting development over the next few months.
And not only will that be interesting, it'll be super interesting to see different brands with different levels of comfort of unleashing the machine, right? And I'm sure we'll see all kinds of solutions around there, solutions with some guardrails of what we can do or what we can't do, and some that just say, go for it. And there's going to be some spectacular failures and there's going to be some spectacular successes. I look forward to seeing that. Maybe we'll end this by asking, let's say I'm a marketer and I've got a game or I've got an app, whatever the case might be. I'm hearing all this generative AI, and I haven't really dipped my toes in yet. Where should I start?
I think the first thing that you should do, and by now, if you're not dipping your toe on it, then you should really question why you are in the technology business first. But irrespective, if you are, uh, first of all, I think you should really, really trust the technology companies, because they spend their entire day in trying to use these technologies to make it better. So
Hmm.
probably giving little bit of latitude to your partners to be able to come up with the new ideas, and giving an audience to those ideas will be a very interesting place to start. Now, not all of those ideas will look amazing. Not all of those creatives will look great out of the box, but that's the promise of generative AI. Generative AI is like, if a human could have made sense of creating those creatives, then human would have made those creatives. Um, so I think being a little bit more experimentation oriented is going to be a pretty good place. And the interesting aspect, John, 99.9% of all of the advertisers that we work with are all sort of with both their feet into it right now. The
Hmm.
degree of their comfort varies, and that's perfectly fine. Um,
Hmm.
I, in fact, see more comfort in some of the developing markets than in the developed markets, because in the developed markets, people are a little bit more, scared about what's going to
Hmm.
happen with the lawsuits, what's going to happen with the copyright violations, and what's going to happen with all the interesting things that we worry about on our day-to-day basis. But when it comes to the developing markets, take India, Southeast Asia, maybe China is developed market, but at the same level of uh, technology development that we are seeing in different parts of the world, we're seeing the technology progress very, 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 very fast. And that
Hmm.
is where we'll see probably some of the beautiful ideas to come from. So maybe one of the other examples, one of the other uh, insights that I would want to give to your marketers is to say, give more attention to your Asian marketing teams, give more attention to
Hmm.
your Indian marketing teams, because they are probably being more experimentative. Um, in
Hmm.
fact, I'll bring this to your attention. Look at the ad that won this time for creative effectiveness at Grand Prix. Is an ad done by Dentsu, where they took a Bollywood actor and they used a deep fake to use that Bollywood actor promote the local businesses. Um, they created almost, you know, tens of thousands of deep fakes of that Bollywood actor, and where they were promoting a local grocery store or a local hardware shop or a local, you know, local merchant shop. Last year, that same creative won for innovation. This year, that creative won for effectiveness. In fact, Dentsu tracked that entire year of the performance of the local shops, and they saw a remarkable improvement in those local shop sales because of that creative that ran. So, for the first time, somebody was able to take a deep fake and use that at a wide scale marketing. Uh, and Cadbury was the brand that used it, wide scale marketing, and they were able to really demonstrate the use of it for effectiveness, and that's what I am looking for.
It's amazing. And we're just starting there right now. Virtual celebrities are a big thing. Past dead celebrities will come as well. Celebrities will live on for forever. Brands, their avatars or mascots. I mean, this is a crazy, wonderful, amazing, scary world we're going into, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for taking this time.
Thank you very much, John, and I concur with you. It's going to be very, very interesting, and I tell this with a lot of pride. I saw the entire evolution of internet with the search, and now I'm seeing the evolution of internet with the generative AI. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what the next 10 years unfold in front of us.
Okay, here we go. Most important tech for the future of marketing.
Generative AI.
Most important skill for marketers today.
uh, Being experimentative and risk taking.
The future of mobile growth is
Explosive.
favorite app you're using right now.
I guess it has to be United, given I'm traveling so much.
You've already answered the second part of that, which is why. Final question. AI and marketing, what should we expect?
Transformation. I think we'll be in a different world.
Wonderful. We're good. That's awesome. And thank you so much, Abhay. That was a lot of fun, actually.
Thank you very much, John. And as always, it was a pleasure speaking to you, and look forward to connecting again whenever we speak again.